Tonight, we open the vault to a chilling story that has never been solved. This is the case of a man, an American journalist whose life ended under mysterious and violent circumstances in Guatemala. For this narration, we will refer to the victim as Mr. A. Some parts of this story are based on fact, others are speculative, recreated for storytelling purposes to help us imagine what may have happened in those final days. The victim, Mr. A, was born on October 16, 1958, in Rockford, Illinois, and raised in Doniphan, Missouri. He graduated top of his class at Doniphan High School in 1976. Friends, family, and colleagues remembered Mr. A as deeply passionate about politics and social issues. After completing his undergraduate degree at the University of Arkansas, he pursued graduate studies at the University of Missouri, earning a journalism degree in 1987. By then, he was fluent in Spanish, a skill that would later shape his international career. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, the victim worked in several states across the U.S., Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, and Florida, building a reputation as a sharp, committed journalist. He wrote for newspapers including the Southwest Times-Record, the Memphis Commercial Appeal, the El Paso Herald-Post, the San Antonio Express-News, and the Stewart News. In August 1998, Mr. A accepted a position with Bridge News in Guatemala, then the second-largest financial news agency after Reuters. The role gave him an international platform. Yet by late 1999, he confided to friends that he was preparing to leave Guatemala for Mexico City, ready to sell his possessions and step away from journalism altogether. But before the victim could leave, something unexpected happened. Imagine this. One night, weighed down by the stress of constant threats and the dangers of his reporting, Mr. A left his apartment seeking relief. In the quiet hum of Guatemala City's nightlife, he met a stranger who felt, for a brief moment, like safety. They shared a drink, exchanged stories and numbers. From that night, conversations began. What started as chance soon grew into late-night calls and small moments of connection. Weeks later, the two found themselves walking together when robbers confronted them. Tension spiked. Before the victim could react, the new friend stepped forward, offering his wallet, protecting Mr. A from violence. That night, shaken but grateful, Mr. A opened up. He admitted that his fears went beyond random street crime. He spoke of politicians angered by his reporting, powerful figures who had threatened him, determined to bury stories that exposed corruption and human rights abuses. Was this confession an act of trust, or the beginning of something far more dangerous? We may never know. But the encounter shows us a man under enormous pressure, relying on fragile bonds in a city where danger lurked everywhere. On December 26, 1999, Mr. A filed what would be his final story, covering the Guatemalan presidential election. Shortly after midnight on December 27th, he sent his last known email. On December 28th, when a friend attempted to visit the victim at his 13th floor apartment in Zone 1, Guatemala City, concern began to rise. With no answer at the door, a janitor was asked to check inside, and found out that the victim was discovered lifeless. Police reports indicate the victim was found without clothes, with multiple stab wounds, injuries to the throat, back, and sides. The brutality suggested rage. Yet there was no murder weapon. No witnesses. The autopsy confirmed the time of lifelessness as December 28. Several possible motives were considered in the aftermath of Mr. A's murder. The victim had been advertising his possessions for sale before leaving Guatemala. Among the stolen items was his phone. His apartment building had no security system, and the neighborhood was considered unsafe at night. Some speculated that Mr. A had been in a private relationship that carried tension. According to those theories, his partner had discovered hidden truths about the risks tied to Mr. A's profession, which caused a serious falling out. On the night in question, some believe emotions may have reignited when the partner found Mr. A in the company of a new friend. Imagined reconstructions suggest a heated argument, jealousy, secrecy, and betrayal colliding before rage took over. Was this tension tied to his death, or was it only coincidence? The truth remains uncertain. Journalism-related motive. As a journalist, Mr. A had written about sensitive political issues, including allegations of human rights abuses by a former leader. Advocates for press freedom questioned whether he had been targeted because of his reporting. Random crime. Others pointed to Guatemala's high levels of violence at the time, suggesting Mr. A may have simply fallen victim to lawlessness in the city. Despite these theories, investigators failed to establish a clear lead. Police never pulled the victim's phone records. Evidence was left untested. Even family members later reported discovering blood and clues at the crime scene that had not been collected by authorities. 10 years later, no arrests had been made. Family, friends, and advocacy groups publicly criticized the investigation, describing it as mishandled and incomplete. Mr. A was one of 37 journalists killed worldwide in 1999. His death also became part of a troubling pattern. Between his murder and the summer of 2001, 8 Americans were killed in Guatemala. In 2001, the victim's family filed a negligence lawsuit against Bridge Information Systems, Bridge News' parent company. They argued the agency failed to follow safety policies, including a 24-hour check-in procedure. Bridge News denied responsibility and later filed for bankruptcy. Reuters eventually purchased its assets. Reactions reflected both grief and outrage. Mr. A's sister criticized investigators for focusing more on his sexuality than on proper police work. His employer at Bridge News said that while U.S. officials repatriated the body, they offered little support in pushing for justice. In later years, Mr. A was remembered for courage and dedication. He had won the Robert F. Kennedy Journalism Award for coverage of poverty in Missouri's Bootheel region. The University of Missouri named an award in his honor, inspiring young journalists to continue his fight for truth. Yet the most pressing part of his legacy remains unresolved: the unanswered questions surrounding his murder, and the silence of a case that more than 2 decades later remains unsolved. So what really happened to Mr. A? Was he silenced for his reporting, betrayed by someone close, or simply caught in the chaos of a violent city? The answers remain locked away. Subscribe and step into the vault where every case tells a story, and every story refuses to be forgotten.